Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss how Trump has moved the United States a little closer to a fascist dictatorship, as he has now openly declared himself completely above the law. We know that the Supreme Court last year essentially suggested the same thing, but now that Trump has said so, in response to the courts trying to block his illegal moves over the past few weeks, we're getting a sense that the president is preparing to justify the complete dismantling of the two branches of government which are supposed to act as a check against executive abuse, the legislature and the judiciary. And if Trump is suggesting that he doesn't have to obey domestic American law, how do we think he's going to behave as far as international law is concerned? But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So it's fair to say that Donald Trump is creating a lot of disruption right now. Abroad, he is threatening to simply create a formal American empire, starting with Gaza. If he starts wearing laurel wreaths to keep his hair in place, we should probably get a bit worried. They're already doing Roman salutes. He's also completely selling Ukraine out by excluding not only Ukraine themselves, but their allies in Europe from talks with Russia. So alarming is this development that there's an emergency meeting in Paris with European leaders later this week to discuss how to respond. And along with his tariff threats, these are the main concerns of those of us in Europe and I suppose other parts of the world. But what happens inside America's borders also affects us too. In practice, the government's position on international matters isn't actually entirely down to that government alone. Governments often have to take lines on geopolitics which are informed by influence and opinion back home. But what if the government didn't have to pay attention to that influence and opinion? Although government works very differently in America to most of European countries, like the UK included, at its core they're basically identical. There are three branches of any functioning democracy, each acting as a check on the other. In theory, the distinction between the three is even more pronounced in the USA. There's the executive, that is the government, the legislature, which is Congress, and the judiciary, the courts holding everyone accountable in law. Each has powers to act as a check against abuse of the others. But Trump isn't staying within his own boundaries. He has signed many executive orders which he didn't have the executive power to authorise. Congress has mostly fallen into line behind the president due to either party political tribalism or fear of Trump disrupting their primaries. So the check against abuses of power which work against the American interests has been neutralised, at least for now. But that still leaves the courts to at least make sure the executive acts within the law. But Trump seems to be getting ready to neutralise this threat as well. Trump, his vice president, Morse and others have recently been attacking the courts for telling Trump what he can and can't do. But yesterday, the president also posted a message on Twitter, which I gather was also posted on his Truth Social, so it makes sense. He who saves his country does not violate any law. Now, this is supposed to be attributable to Napoleon, but what it certainly is it's lifted from a quote from the film Waterloo about Napoleon. Doesn't matter where the statement originated. Trump has said it. He said it in reference to himself. The meaning of the statement is clear. As long as he claims that what he is doing is for the good of his country, then he can do whatever the hell he likes. No law applies to him and no court can stop him. But of course the law applies to him and the courts can stop him. Indeed, they have done so. This statement is not going to be accepted as a valid defence in any worthwhile court of law, and his band of rogue oligarchs know it. Encouraged, no doubt, by the not remotely independent Supreme Court suggesting much the same thing last year. But what to do about it? If Trump continues to issue illegal orders, courts will continue to block them and order remedy. Right now, Trump and his team are working on undermining federal judges. They're building up public opinion, or at least the opinion of the public they care about, against the idea of the courts being able to constrain the president. But this tactic on its own won't change anything. It's doubtful that public opinion turned against the judges who do respect the law will make them come to different judgments. They might err on the side of the government in very close arguments. There's a suggestion that this actually happened here in the UK after Boris Johnson's government attacked the judiciary in much the same way. But it doesn't stop them finding against the government in very clear-cut cases. So they presumably intend to clip the wings of the judiciary. to set the government officially above the law once they've persuaded enough people that it is the judiciary overreaching their authority, not the executive. And then what? Not only will Trump behave as if no laws apply to him, no laws will apply to him. And what pressure can then be brought against him for his international antics? You know, when some people talked about the way Trump wanted to sweep away democracy in America, there were others who thought that was a bit far-fetched. You're reading a bit too much into that. Why? Because America's been a democracy, so it will remain so. Germany was a democracy before Hitler came to power. And I know some think, oh, it's very lazy to invoke the Nazis' rise to power when warning against people like Trump. Oh, everyone you don't like is a Nazi. It's like, they're using the same methods. Word for word, line by line. They're not even coming up with their own playbook. It's the same one. Claiming that he should not respect the law if what he's doing is to save the country. It's exactly the line Hitler used. Only it made more sense when Hitler said it because Germany was up shit creek at the time. It needed saving. It's just that the Nazis were not the ones to do that. What does America need saving from? Being the richest country in the world by a country mile. Being the most powerful country in the world by far. Nobody would beat America in a no-holds-barred war if it ever came to it. Nobody. What on earth did America need saving from? Trump is already planning on usurping the courts. He already has the House Speaker in his pocket. He's pardoned people who literally committed insurrection and at the same time removed security protection from people he's made a target to his armed supporters. He's threatened vengeance against not just individual political opponents, but entire states that didn't vote for him. Tell me the difference between Trump and Hitler. Tell me one thing that's different. Because Trump may be trying to quote Napoleon, but he's emulating Hitler. The only difference I can think of is Hitler at least had some very clever people working for him. But Trump can compensate by having taken over a government that is already insanely powerful on the world stage. I mean, he's even talking about annexing his neighbours and making them part of his country, for goodness sake. And just for good measure, just in case it's not an exact parallel with Nazi Germany, he's agreed to carve up Europe in a deal with the Russian leader. Can people wake up or at least read some European history books? Because I have to say, it's page by page. It's different character names. It's the same story. And when Trump has beaten any opposition back home, there will be nothing we can do to persuade him on international action. What will the rest of us do then? Our best hope may be that Trump's people are just too stupid to actually put their own plans into operation. As I've said before, what Trump is trying to do, Boris Johnson tried on a smaller scale. He wanted to stop the courts from holding the government to account. He actually tried to suggest that the courts not be allowed to hear any cases against the government. He tried to do that, even put it in the manifesto, but his progress was limited because the people he put in charge of those projects were either thick or lazy, or in the case of Dominic Raab, both. The biggest threat we had was from Dominic Cummings, but he picked a fight with Johnson's now wife, forgetting the old adage, birds before mates. He lost the ensuing power struggle, and that was the end of him. Maybe the same will happen with Trump. His intentions are clear, but maybe stupid evil will save the day. Maybe Trump will turn out to be more pinky in the brain than Napoleon. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.